everyone. Welcome to Authority Architects. Today we have Jeff and Sherry from the marketing team from Habitat for Humanity of Greater Nashville. Thanks so much for joining Jeff and Sherry.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
As well.
So tell us a little bit. I know a lot of people have heard of Habitat for Humanity, obviously, but can you each tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to the organization here in Nashville, and just a little bit about your personal background in marketing as well. And I'll start with you, Sherry, and then we'll go to you, Jeff.
Yeah. So I've been here for 15 years, which is amazing in and of itself. And my background I came up through the ranks first in journalism, then I went the rank of PR and marketing. And what brought me to Habitat was I was marketing for a lot of the builders here in the geographic region. And I also had worked on Music Row. So I had magazine background. So when I got to Habitat, it was nice to have all of those skills because here at Habitat, you do a little bit of everything. So we do storytelling, we do marketing, we do graphic design, video work, and all of my work in all of those respective areas really was a great platform to be a contributor here.
Awesome. And you, Jeff?
Yeah, so I've been with Habitat for 10 years. My background is actually in broadcast communications. I worked for a PBS TV affiliate in West Virginia for about a decade before I moved to Nashville, and just really just love everything about marketing. And getting to work with Habitat for Humanity has been a dream for me because we're not only just out there building houses, but truly, it's a very mission centric organization, and the past 10 years have been wonderful. So, absolutely love everything that we do, and as we often say, you drink the Habitat Kool-Aid, and you just keep coming back for more. So, I'm not that great of a builder either, but they let me stay around because apparently I'm pretty good at marketing. So.
Have you hit your fingers when you've tried to hammer things a few times, Jeff? Or
I have hit my finger more than I care to admit, and probably have said lots of things that should not make it in a press release, so.
Well, I have a question for you both, which is I'm familiar with the Habitat for Humanity name, generally speaking, but I'm not so familiar with the way it works in terms of its localities. We work with the American Heart Association, and I know they have a lot of local chapters. Is it something similar to that, or how exactly does it function? And how do you make yourselves stand out from the other Habitat for Humanity chapters?
It's a lot of great questions, right? Habitat as an organization has been around since 1976. It's kind of a misnomer that President and Mrs. Carter, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later, but that they started the organization, and that is not the case. Actually, they're probably our most famous Habitat humanitarians. But the organization started in 1976 with Linda and Millard Fuller. And so we were one organization that we talked about this recently in a workshop Jeff and I did. In 76, we raised money, we built houses, and we had a volunteer corps. And what has happened is we are now an organization that's in 70 countries, and where there's 1,000 affiliates across the U.S. And we're a mortgage bank, we're a retail center, we are a construction company, we're an education center. We are so much more as a brand than we were in 76. So we've grown quite a bit.
Wow. And so what exactly you're mentioning all these different things. It's technically a 501c nonprofit, right? That relies on people to donate. Does Habitat also get funding from local governments or from the federal government?
Yeah, so we get funding from all different sources. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and when you look at all of the Habitat affiliates across the country and even across the world, we make up the Habitat network. And we don't like to use the term as a franchise, but essentially you have Habitat International, and then all of these local nonprofits across the country who are Habitat affiliates. We're affiliated with the international brand, and there are certain things that we have to do to be in good standing with Habitat International. So, as part of that, we're a mortgage lender. When someone applies for Habitat for Humanity, for the program, they'll come into the program once they meet certain criteria. There's eligibility criteria, and they're approved for the program. They'll come into the program and they'll start taking classes in what we call Habitat Academy. So they'll learn how to balance their checkbook. They'll learn how to create a budget. They'll learn how to be a good neighbor, and all of these different things that go into just being a good, respectable um, homeowner. And so they learn all of these wonderful tools and skills in Habitat Academy, and we're not talking we're talking about folks who would they may qualify for a traditional mortgage, but they may not qualify for enough to actually purchase a home in today's markets. We're in Nashville, so the Nashville market it is crazy expensive, and so that's where Habitat comes in. So we're working with individuals who may be first year school teachers. They may be individuals in the service sector. They have a job, they have an income, they may be retired with a retirement income. There's many different stories and demographics of the folks who we work with, but we'll partner with these folks, and they'll go through Habitat Academy, and then they begin actually building on their own home. And once all of that is completed, they go through the formal closing process. We have an attorney that will sit there, they'll close on their home, they'll formally purchase the home. The big thing that's different between a Habitat mortgage and a traditional mortgage is we have a 0% APR interest rate, so no interest on our 30-year mortgage loan.
Wow.
So that's really what makes it affordable.
That makes a big
Yeah,
difference. I
and
mean,
so we often get asked, "Well, how do you do that? How do you subsidize that interest rate?" Because that's how for-profit builders make it, and I mean, lenders and everything. So we have a whole slew of sponsors and groups that we work with to grant funding and various funders who help make that possible. And our Restore, the Habitat Restore, which is open to the public, that's our social enterprise where we'll accept new and used donated items, household goods that we resell back to the public. Many folks come into our restores. We have is it 35,000 square feet here in Nashville? We have 3 restore centers, one here in Nashville, one, and then we have 2 in Wilson County and Dixon County, which are a little bit smaller communities. And we accept these donated items that we resell back to the public, and those funds go back into the Habitat program. In fact, 88 cents of every dollar that's collected through the Restore goes back into the Habitat program.
wow, that's tremendous. So,
It's a great business model, isn't it?
yeah. Um, well, so when we're thinking about Habitat National versus Habitat Local, what does that look like in terms of the difference? Like, how do you, I know you said you have to meet certain markers, but like in the national specific area, are people just familiar with who you are? Like, how do you really get your name out there into the community?
And we've been talking a lot about that lately. Everybody in the public views us as one habitat. We are Habitat for Humanity. But honestly, in each market, there are some nuances that are different when it comes to marketing and storytelling. And, first rule in journalism is know your audience, right? Well, the fact that we deal with corporate clients, we deal with faith clients, we have government clients as far as the funding, stat goes. We have homeowners that we work with. We have such a variety of engagements that again make us such a rich and varied organization. But each of those stories has to shift just a little bit depending on your audience. But here's a great example. Habitat International, one of their standard terms is that they provide decent housing. Well, we've talked about this. In Puerto Rico, decent housing might work well, but when I tell the councilwoman or councilman that we're going to come into their, neighborhood and build a community and build a neighborhood that has decent housing, they're going to say goodbye. So we can't and we don't because we don't build decent housing. We build affordable and quality housing. So there's nuances. I was looking on another affiliate's website, and they use the word poverty housing. And again, I it's not a word that Jeff or I would use in this market. Because again, we're really proud of the house that we build. I mean, we've won 17 consecutive awards for our building excellence. And we actually used to be LEED certified. And we dropped that because it was adding cost to the house. But we have a great quality product because it also it attributes to the homeowners being able to stay in their home. They can afford the electric bill because the house is so well built. So it's part of our sustainability program. But another market might use the term decent housing, but in this market, we won't.
I'd assume it's the same in most major metropolitan areas around the world. You have those certain zoning ordinances you have to meet, right? So you have to have the certain quality of house.
Yeah, we are very familiar with the folks who work in the codes department with our local government, and they'll come out and do their inspections just as they would with any for-profit build that takes place in the local communities. But one thing you mentioned a few moments ago, you were asking about like the roles of Habitat International in comparison to the roles of the local affiliate. International, I really look at them. The the organization of Habitat International, they do not do any direct building themselves. The Habitat Network, the local 501(c)(3) nonprofits that make up the Habitat Network, they do all of the building. International serves as they are the brand bearer. They hold the brand. They help make relationships with companies across the country that we're able to tap into. And being we're there's roughly 1,000 local habitat affiliates in the country. We're consistently ranked in the top 20, and there's a lot that goes into that ranking. One of them is size, just by the very nature of who we are in Nashville. Obviously, we're going to be a little bit of a larger nonprofit than say someone who has a habitat affiliate in a rural community. But we have a fee that we pay to International every year to maintain that brand, and along with that comes so many wonderful opportunities. They're like siding. We don't use the vinyl siding at our affiliate. We use the really nice. It's like a wood
Cement,
material.
yeah,
Yes.
cement boarding.
Yes,
Mhm.
and so we get that at a really good rate because Habitat International, they're able to go out on the marketplace and say, "Hey, can you donate this or can you give us a break?" And they just economies of scale, they're able to be that go-between between those larger corporations, and so, they're able to help provide that type of support. They also help with, various what they call global village trips. We are a partner with Habitat, Dominican Republic. I just got back from Santo Domingo a few weeks ago, and we're pouring concrete floors in homes there. That's a big issue, big challenge that they have there. They have a lot of dirt floors there, so we partner with them. Our Habitat affiliate partners with them, but International, they help to build those relationships between what's going on here versus what's going on in other countries. So essentially, Nashville, we have a globally recognized brand at our disposal that we're able to showcase and be a part of.
Wow. I know in conversations leading up to this recording today, you all shared a little bit about the impact and collaboration that the Carters had on the Nashville specific organization. Can you give kind of the background to that historically and also the 2019 project that went on, and just share a little bit about that and how that helped shape kind of perception locally and nationally as well?
Yes, and if you look, you can see the poster behind Jeff. So that's actually, yeah, former President and Mrs. Carter. So that's another great example of how the international office works with its affiliates. So the Carter Work Project is something that comes in through international, but they they work with different affiliates to be able to express that Carter Work Project. And so Nashville was chosen in 2019 to be the host of that. So what that means is that we have the privilege and honor to host the Carters who came in. There's a great story I'll tell you about in a minute about his almost not making it. But the Carters, Garth and Tricia, we had 5,000 volunteers who came in from around the world throughout the week to build 21 homes. So it was an extraordinarily busy week of, yeah, can you even imagine? So our affiliate was in charge of feeding them, busing them, making sure they had hotel arrangements, making sure that the houses were ready to be built on every day. And, when you host that many volunteers on a build site, that's a lot of logistics. Um, Jeff and I were talking about this the other day, but it never hurts your brand when a former president is sort of a figurehead for you. And he was such an amazing champion for Habitat and for the mission. And I think some things that people may or may not know about President Carter. I've seen him get on to Garth because he didn't think Garth was working hard enough. When you came out on the build site, you didn't stop him and bother him to talk. He was there to work. And he and Mrs. Carter were just delightful. But they were about the business of really changing and making a difference. And they weren't just about coming in for the media interviews. They came in, they got there at 6 every morning and they worked. And when they came in this year, I was at the Ryman getting ready for the opening. And I got a call from International and they said, well, I hate to tell you this, but President Carter has fallen. And at this point, he was 94 years old. So this is the first day of the Carter Work Project, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I guess this is going to change the complexion of the week, if the Carters aren't going to be here. And I said, so are you telling me he's not going to make it? And they said, nope. They put 11 stitches over his left eye, and he's hopping on a plane, and he showed up to work.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is commitment. That is commitment.
It is, and they built the corbels on all of the 21 houses, so the homeowners in Park Preserve have the wonderful distinction of knowing that President and Mrs. Carter built all the corbels that went on their houses, so they were tremendous advocates for Habitat. I mean, they traveled around the world and they did the Carter Work Project, and Nashville actually was the last city that they were able to participate in their namesake event because I think after COVID hit, of course, after 2019, so I think there were a couple of years that they didn't host the Carter Work Project. And so by the time we came back to it, their health had declined enough that, they really weren't able to be on the build site 5 days a week. So Habitat really had the honor and privilege of being the last Carter Work Project that they were a part of.
That's the story about him falling and still making it is pretty wild. Um,
The other thing that was, just from a media standpoint, what happens when a president comes into your community to work? We had 5,000 unique media impressions from the week that went out around the world telling the story about affordable housing and the need for affordable housing. So, the story really wasn't about the Carters being here. They were here to elevate the story that we need to do more to really address the need for affordable housing throughout the world. And so, they were lending their brand and their visibility to, the great need to say we've got to, as, humanity, do more to address this. But that's a lot of media for the week.
Well, in terms of your differentiation of paid versus earned media, it sounds like you get a lot of earned media with your sponsors and the people who work with you, but what does the paid media side look like? Are you doing a lot of TV ads? Are you doing social ads? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, so our affiliate, we don't do a lot of paid media. I mean, just the little bit of things that we pay for as far as active marketing goes would be like signage and various things like that, and then maybe a few social media paid spots. Habitat International, they are working towards doing that type of work, like the paid media on a grander national scale. So just by the very name of Habitat for Humanity, we really don't have to do a lot of marketing to the masses. Now we are very grassroots, even though we are in, one of the top 20 largest affiliates in the country. We are still a very grassroots organization. Our main office, our central office, is in Nashville, but we also work in 4 other counties that are very rural. So we have our development staff, our fundraising team, and then those of us on the marketing team. We travel all across our whole footprint, and we do a lot of handshaking. I'm not going to say as much kissing babies, but we do a lot of handshaking, and people know who we are. And the way it works is we really want to stay focused in our service area. There are other Habitat affiliates in the counties around us, and we try really hard not to encroach unless it's a partnership. We try not to encroach in on the work that they're doing because, I mean, Habitat it's not a one size fits all model. We focus primarily on new home construction, whereas another Habitat affiliate would maybe they do more of rehab work or um, like a like a repair program or a senior living aging in place program. We are focused more on new home construction just because it fits the market that we work in so much better. So by its very nature, we don't really need to do a lot of paid advertisement. International is starting to do more of that on our behalf.
I'm curious, Jeff, you mentioned earlier in the conversation about conveying the breadth of what Habitat provides, like, beyond just building homes, and there's the educational component, there's so many other things. From a marketing standpoint, and, like, a storytelling standpoint, how do you get that story out there, and to change people's perceptions of what they have preconceived notions of?
I would say consistency, consistency, consistency. I mean, everybody has to speak the same message, and we have four people who work in our marketing department, but we have a staff of right around 80 or 90 folks on our full staff. So we have to have 90 people all rowing in the same direction. And I heard a story. We had the Habitat of Tennessee, which is the Tennessee Habitat affiliate. Again, they don't really build any homes, but they help advocate for us on the state level. They held a conference earlier this week, and one of the neat stories that I heard there was in one of our neighboring affiliates in over in Williamson County. The construction team lead, he was out on the construction site one day, and the folks came to pick up the dumpster to take the dumpster away. Well, the guy who owns the dumpster company happened to be there, and he said, "Tell me about Habitat. I want to learn more about it." And so this construction worker, he was telling him about Habitat. Well, after the conversation, he said, "Well, I'm going to be calling your central office and telling them about a donation I want to make." It ended up being a $100,000 donation that the owner of this trash company was making to their local affiliate. So everybody has to be speaking the same language, and we have a staff meeting every quarter where we bring all of our people together, and we have just a great time of sharing what's going on across our affiliate, the successes, all the wonderful things that we have coming down the pike. But mixed in with that too is we're all speaking the same language, and we're listening to everybody. So there may be someone who, they may work in the finance office. They don't get a lot of public facing work. They're mainly in their office here in our central office. But even those folks who don't get out of the office a lot into the community, they still speak the same language because they have vendors and folks that they work with as well too. So just not discounting anyone. And our most important person in this office is our front desk, and they they have to really speak that language and do it well because they're interfacing with the community who comes into the office. So that just being consistent with the wording and the verbiage that we use is really important.
I'd have to say too, I'm an old journalist, but there are so many great stories here. We are never lacking when it comes to the thought of paid or not. We have such great stories here from the homeowners who this is probably their first home and they may be in their 60s, and retired, to some of our immigrant families who have such fabulous tales about how they got to the United States. And every homeowner has such a unique pathway and journey to home ownership that the stories are just rich and incredible. And I think that really goes to, again, the marketing, when I think we're a very interesting brand that has a lot of great stories to tell. And I think the other thing that we also try to do, we have so many partnerships that make this organization work. And this is where Jeff really shines, but when we talk about Habitat, we really want to talk about our partners. Whether they're our corporate partners or our faith partners or our government partners, it's the work and their belief and faith in us and their willingness to, support this organization financially, that really makes us, gives us the ability to do what we do. So when we storytell, we really like to raise their visibility just as much, because we couldn't do it without them.
That's really interesting, and I'm curious that there's obviously a lot of mission-driven organizations, out there. So how do you keep your organization the top of folks' minds when they're considering, "I wanna donate something to a good cause?" Like, I think part of the answer, I would imagine, Jeff, as you were saying a bit ago, is about consistency and everyone being on the same page in terms of how they share the story and what they're talking about. But are there any other anecdotes or strategies that you employ to keep top of mind?
Absolutely. It's be present at community meetings, be present. Be the one who gets to know your local leaders. And, it's a neat thing when you can walk into a room and the mayor of here in Tennessee, we have mayors for the counties as well as mayors for the local municipalities. And when you walk into a county meeting and the mayor of the county will come up to you and say, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing?" That speaks volumes that you're on a first name basis with the decision makers and the lawmakers and the policymakers in your local community. And we have a great team who is not afraid to get out there and to meet folks in the community and to be present at community meetings. And it's not an us versus them. We see great value in every single nonprofit that is in Nashville and all the the all 5 counties that make up our service area. We see great value in partnering with them, and we have great relationships that if we're not able to fulfill a need when someone comes to us and says, "Hey, can you help me?" and we know that that's not a service that we provide, we can share that with and refer them to another nonprofit who we have properly built a relationship with. So it all comes down to relationships. We are a relationship driven organization. There are some transactional things that we have to do just by the nature of being a mortgage lender and a home builder, but for the most part, relationships is what really drives our community. And when people see you, they're seeing you in your full authenticity and not someone who is just there to ask for money. They see you as an individual who really wants to make the community stronger.
That makes a ton of sense. And the last prepared question I have is kind of an extension of what you've already been talking about. But for folks that are either entering the field or in other mission driven organizations or just want to improve their marketing chops, are there any pieces of advice that both of you might share to those individuals about what you've learned? And I think we can already extract several of the wisdom pieces of wisdom that you've already shared, but anything that's top of mind for advice.
Yeah, I think I would jump in and say, I'm always looking for a good content creator. And those skills go out in a lot of different ways, whether it's visual or written or video. I feel like, again, I'm more story driven, and our organization, which is an experience, our organization and our brand is an experience. You come in and you experience Habitat. So I think having, honing your skills to be able to write, to have visual acuity and to be able to utilize tools such as social media and, video work. Those are all tools to do one thing, one important thing, and that's to create content that's interesting, and especially working at a nonprofit, you have to have more than one skill. If I only wrote, I mean, when I came here, I did just about everything. I was the photographer, I was the graphic artist, I was the marketing strategy, I was the spokesperson. It's like, nonprofits are famous for needing really highly skilled people in a lot of different areas. So I feel like it's a completely rewarding career to work with a nonprofit. But you also work really hard, and the higher the skill levels and the broader, which is sort of not where we're going in the world of marketing, we're getting kind of very specialized. But when you work for a nonprofit, you do a little bit of everything, right, Jeff?
Absolutely, and I would just tag on to that to say that, we really don't know what a 40-hour work week is. I mean, it's and a lot of that comes because we are a relationship-driven organization, and people will see us out in the community, and they don't wanna learn about how I'm doing, they wanna find out what is Habitat doing, and they are very familiar with us being with the Habitat organization, and that's what they wanna talk about, and so I would say to anyone who is considering a position with a nonprofit or any organization in marketing, just realize that, you have to be passionate about it. There is a stress level that comes along with being in just a job that, will drive you insane and crazy, and you don't wanna work there, and you'll regret every bit of working there. But then there's also a healthy stress level of being in a position that you absolutely love, that is motivational, that helps you to continue to go further. And when you see the individuals who we're working with, and you see that their lives are transformed from the work that we're doing, that is truly amazing. And that's really what gives me just the energy to be able to get up every day and to continue doing what we're doing. So you have to be passionate and you have to love what you're doing, or else it's not going to work out.
Makes a lot of sense and definitely wise words. Well, those are all the prepared questions we have, Jeff and Sherry. Before we adjourn, are there any last thoughts from your side? What's on the horizon? Any kind of plans for the latter part of this year?
So, where can
Yeah.
people find you?
Jeff, I'll let you do that one. Then I do have another little project I want to talk about.
Okay, yeah. I know which one you're gonna talk about, which is really fun and outside of the box, it really is. Folks can find us at habitatnashville.org, and it has all the different information and ways for folks to get involved with Habitat, and if you wanna learn about our international work, it's just simply habitat.org.
So, a little bit of an expansion on the brand discussion. Everybody probably perceives a Habitat as a home builder. I mean, we are a nonprofit affordable home builder. But what people also, what I think is becoming more apparent is that home is about a community, and it's about more than just the house that's sitting there. So Habitat of Greater Nashville had the unique opportunity to work on a project that is something that's really very different for us. So in the pursuit of finding affordable land, the deal that our CEO struck is that we would pay half cash for the land, and that for the other half, we would do what we ask our homeowners to do, which is to work for the land. So Metro wanted to put a park in, and as part of this contiguous piece of land, there was a 1966 African American baseball field that is a staple of the community that has been struggling to keep its doors open because the fields are deteriorating, and it's a much loved, volunteer driven board, and it used to be the epicenter of baseball in Nashville. But anyway, all of these 3 projects are sitting together, and so we were given the opportunity to help develop the park and renovate the ballpark. So our commitment to the park and the ballpark area financially was $600,000. So as part of our land purchase. And when Habitat kind of got rolling into the project, we kind of said, "Ooh, the ballpark piece is 300,000 and that's not gonna do much for this park." So we really made a commitment to make a difference in that community, and we have raised $3 million. We got Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball Player Association, Morgan Wallen, and the Spear Foundation all came in as $500,000 donors to really, give us the legs to continue to fundraise and put this project together. So it's just another great example of, if you're going to do something, swing for the fences, right? Because we've really had and it's taken us 3 years to put the project together and to work through all of the challenges and the fundraising goals. And every time we get there, I think, okay, I've got enough money. And then the pipe breaks or the water line's in the wrong place because it's such an old ballpark. And so it's been a bit of a challenge, but it goes to Habitat's mission, which is to build communities. And so when we're done with that little corner of the earth, it'll be a $12 million investment in that community, and something that I think our brand. Everybody keeps saying we don't do ball fields, but we fundraise. We run a construction site. We run a volunteer corps. We really do have the skills to do what we have done there. We've leveraged our partnerships to, bring easements in and, be able to make this work. So it's just a great example of, really when you put your mind to something and you can leverage your resources, really what can happen.
And I'll mention this too. Sherry is very humble, but she is the queen of relationships. And when I say that we visit and participate in community meetings, she is she goes to every single one of them, and she's there advocating for projects like this. And we don't really know what's going to come from this project, but connected to this property is basically an abandoned African American cemetery that has been overgrown and overshadowed for years and years and years. And somehow throughout this whole process, we discovered it and we received a grant to help bring recognition to this property. And so right now, we're in the process of we've hired a filmmaker, an African American filmmaker who can tell the story through his voice. And he is working on a film project now that's going to bring recognition and honor and just some the folks who were there have been long forgotten, but we're going to remember them through this project. And so we're excited about that too. It all comes down to building community. Our mission statement is seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And every single one of those homes, communities, and hope is a part of our mission. And we try to do that every single day in the work that we do.
Wow. Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than that. That's a pretty stellar ending. So, thank you, Jeff and Sherry, so much for being our guests today. It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning a little bit about what's going on in your world. So, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.